Hello, I'm Charles MacKay, General Director of the Santa Fe Opera, and I'm here with my good friend Jim Robinson, who will be the stage director for our production of Dr. Sun Yat-sen for the 2014 season. I remember, Jim, that when I first called you and said, hey, would you have any interest in this really exotic Chinese opera, Dr. Sun Yat-sen by Huang Ruo? Much to my delight, you said, absolutely.
Once I started digging into the life of Sun Yat-sen, I realized that he was an incredibly important figure. And once I looked at the opera that Huang Ruo had put together, I realized that this was indeed the type of project that I would be very, very interested in taking on. I think I said at one point that the way that Candace Chong, the librettist, and Huang Ruo approached this opera was almost like the way Verdi took on historical figures and created these operas around them. And this one reminded me so much of Un ballo in maschera, because it's a significant political figure, but also there's a great passionate love story going on at the same time. Well, it's interesting because the more I investigated the life of Sun Yat-sen, I realized that his life is it's a global story. You know, this is the man who is really the father of modern China. And we look at so many things that are going on in the world right now in China and relationships with the United States or the West and China. Somebody like that has to be universal, you know, global. So when Huang Ruo said that he was creating a new version, I mean, in essence, this was the world premiere of a new version of this. And it's a wonderful opportunity, I think, for the composer, because sometimes when you're doing world premieres, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And this is kind of a wonderful thing for him, because he is using a Western orchestra with, I guess you could almost say, like, you know, a complement of Asian instruments, Chinese instruments, which I think will give it a really marvelous texture. Say half of the singers in the cast, the men, as it turns out, did the world premiere, and they're all Chinese. But, and I think, Charles, you and I talked about this, that it would be really interesting to make the cast as international as the man. So all of the female characters and the chorus are comprised of Americans, largely.
Now, Jim, you've been working with the same team quite a bit. The scenic designer, Alan Moyer, and the costume designer, James Schutte, and the choreographer, Sean Curran.
And the lighting designer, Christopher Ackerlund.
One of the interesting elements in your production is the use of the bamboo scaffolding, which is something one sees in China even today.
We're using the construction element, the scaffolding element, as a metaphor for this is a world that is sometimes being destroyed, sometimes being rebuilt, and you know, we're in a world that's in flux, and also that speaks to who this man was, Sun Yat-sen, because he was letting go of his own old traditions and embracing something that was very new. And you know, he was a real trailblazing figure, but he was also very conscious of his roots and how deep those roots went in traditional China. I mean, this is not just a designer's dream, but it's a director's dream to see this wonderful integration of traditional Chinese costumes with a lot of Western influences and Western costumes with a lot of Chinese influence. And again, that speaks to this notion of a world in transition and cultures colliding and sometimes, you know, pulling against each other. And I think that that's what's going to make this really special.
I wonder if you can talk a little bit about Huang Ruo's music and how that inspires your direction and the approach that you will take to the production.
I think what really attracted me to Huang Ruo's music is that he knows how to tell a story through music, and picking up on what he's trying to do really helped as we were developing this piece further for the American premiere. I do think that what what makes this piece really interesting is that Huang Ruo has found a way of creating music that sounds like it should be part of this certain event that's happening in Shanghai, and then something that's happening on a more romantic or personal level in Japan, and then something that's in a more war-torn part of various parts of China, and that just helps me. So this one hasn't posed too many problems, and it makes me very grateful that Candace Chong and Huang Ruo were not trying to cover every journey that Sun Yat-sen had made during his life.
Now, you and I share a common origin in terms of our careers, that we both started in opera at the Santa Fe Opera. And I believe this was in the period, was it not, when you were studying composition with Dominic Argento?
It's true. I was a graduate student in composition with Dominic Argento in Minneapolis, and I was meant to be working on my master's thesis, and I happened to be in Santa Fe. I took a job as an usher at the Santa Fe Opera, and that experience changed my life. Not only was I a really great usher, but I was able to see all of the different productions that were going on that season. So to have an association with the Santa Fe Opera for me is just, it's a joy. One of the great things about working at the Santa Fe Opera is that the theater itself is in just one of the most beautiful locations ever. And there's a beautiful, wonderful time of day when the sun is going down and people are coming into the theater. And as everybody's getting ready for the performance to start, you see this magnificent sunset, and you're a fool if you don't take advantage of the sunset. It was very easy to construct a set or to come up with a design that featured this glorious sunset and then to get the ball rolling. I mean, what a beautiful house curtain. The curtain goes, well, I guess in the case of Santa Fe, the sun goes down, and that's the show curtain. But it truly is one of the most magical places in the world. And working in an outdoor theater does have its challenges. Wind, rain, the howling of coyotes, and all of that. But that's what makes it special.
Well, Jim, it's going to be a great delight to have you with us in Santa Fe this summer. We're so grateful to have you returning to lead the stage direction for Dr. Sun Yat-sen in its American premiere. And so we wish you very, very well.